Okay guys, in the last video we learned the basics of routing and navigation. Now although our code works perfectly fine right now, there is a better and recommended way to write code related to routing. So in this video we are going to reorganize the existing code by moving the routing functionality to a separate file. So I've created a new file called app.routingmodule.ts, and we are going to move away all the routing code from app.module.ts to app.routing.module.ts. So let's see how to do that. The first thing we need to do is make sure we have all the imports. So we are going to need the ng module decorator for our component. We need the router module, of course, and then we also use routes to strongly type our routes for the application, and we'll see this in just a bit. We then import all the components that we need to navigate to. Right now our application has just the two components, employee list component and department list component. So we make sure that we have imported these two components. Now the next step is to configure our routes. So I am going to create a new constant called routes, and this I'm going to strong type to be of routes from Angular/router package. And then I'm going to configure this constant with all the routes for our application. So the path departments is going to display department list. The path employees is going to show employee list. And this is exactly the same thing that we have done over here in app.module. So router.module.forRoute we have configured here, and I've just added a constant and I've configured that constant with the routes. Now the next step is to add our app routing module component. So export class app routing module, and then we make use of the ng module decorator that we have imported to add some metadata to this class. So what are we adding? We add an imports array and an exports array. In the imports array we are going to use router module, which we have imported, and on the router module we use the forRoute method and then pass in this constant that we have configured. So this routes we have configured with the path, and the same thing we are going to specify here. And if you look at app.module.ts, router.module.forRoute, and then we have the path, and if I go back here, router.module.forRoute, I have all the paths. So now this router module is localized only to app.routing.module.ts. So we need to make sure that other modules or other components can make use of this. So I'm also going to export this router module that I have just configured. So now we have the app routing module configured with this ng module decorator that contains all the routes for our application. And the next thing we are going to do is also declare a new constant, routing components, and we are going to specify all the components that we are going to navigate to. And this is just maybe a slight improvement in code because I'm going to show you in just a bit. So this is basically the app.routing.module.ts. All the imports, configure the routes, add it to router module, and then export it. And any component that you need to navigate to, just declare it in an array called routing components. So now let's go back and make changes to app.module.ts because we should not have routing code in two different places. Now the first thing we need to do is import app.routing.module.ts. So over here under router module, I'm going to import app routing module. I'm going to import this from /app routing.module. The next thing is we are going to have to specify our app routing module in the imports array. So now I don't need this router module.forRoute anymore because that is happening in the app routing module. So I'm going to remove this and add app routing module. Now the next thing is we need to declare all the components that we are making use of. And if you have a look here, we have department list component, employee list component, and I need to import it again over here in right here, employee list component and department list component. So instead I can remove these two and I can even remove these two. Now I can combine this into a single component. I'm going to say routing components. Let me just have a look what it is. All right, routing components. So I'm going to copy this, and in app.module.ts, I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to import the same thing. So import routing components from /, and I'm going to just copy this. So there you go. We have moved our routing to a separate file. So let's save this and give it a go. Let me see. There you go. Our routing application is loaded. I'm just gonna navigate to localhost 3000. So we have departments and employees. I click on departments. I get the department list and also the URL changes. I click on employees. Employee list component is displayed, and the same is reflected in the URL. So this is how it works. We configure the routes. We add it to the router module. This router module is attached to the app routing module class through the ng module decorator. And any components we are navigating to, we are going to specify in routing components array. So back in app.module.ts, I just have to import this new file, app routing module, from app routing module file. And then I'm going to add it in the imports array. And then in the declarations, I'm just going to declare all the components that we are going to navigate to. So that is basically how you move your code from app.module.ts to a separate app routing module.ts. So by doing this, we have actually separated our routing concerns from the different features in our application. For example, the department list component or employee list component. And we also have a common place for all the application level routing functionality. So when you create a new application and you have to make use of routers, this is the approach that you have to take. All right, that's pretty much it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.